What's up, folks? We are back for another fun time review. Decides for the Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad. The is important because that movie is actually watchable. We have Zach here. We have a wonderful special guest, Mr. Jake Maringoni, here to come back to talk about a fun time and some craziness. Let's do what we always do, which is a little bit of the non-spoiler section. So, Jake, if somebody came to you and said, "Should I watch this movie?" what would you tell them?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would, a glowing recommendation for this movie. I guess it also depends on if you like violence and excessive amounts of people being ripped in half and and people's getting eaten and people's heads getting blown off. It's very violent, but I would recommend this film. Absolutely. So great. It's great. Perfect. Honestly. Maybe just a little. Maybe a little bit flawed, but I would definitely, just a little.
Yeah, I would back you up. I'd say it's a ton of fun, especially if you're into kind of R-rated, comical violence stuff. This is very much in line with other like R-rated superhero movies, and sort of like the R-rated version of what you'd expect from the guy who does Guardians. It's not a perfect film, but it is a absolute blast to watch and just a ton of fun. I think that what really comes through is how much fun James Gunn is having doing this movie. And I think that if you're on the same wavelength as him, you will have a very similar amount of fun. What about you, Zach? Would you suggest somebody watch this?
If someone came up and asked me, should I watch the Suicide Squad? I would say, I don't fucking care. Watch what you want. Why are you asking me? But did I like this movie? I liked it a bit. I have some inherent issues with the like extra R version of rated R movies. I think like Logan does it right because it's used purposeful and used dramatically, but this is like show-offy in its use of R to where it's like, look at all this cool fucking shit I can do, and there's like it's highlighting the R moments some ways. I'll talk about a specific shot later that really drove me crazy. Jake already knows it. And but I found, it's still like creative, and James Gunn does have a more creative eye with how he uses the camera compared to any other superhero filmmakers. That makes it engaging no matter what's happening on screen. And a lot of the characters, he brings a lot of characters in this movie, so that some of them kind of miss, but a lot of them really hit and you fall in love for. And I really want to talk about the stakes of this movie and how some characters I felt like could not be violated, and that was really a sign of how this movie got you connected to certain people, because for which ones I was just really hoping would make it.
Let's jump into the spoiler section, and I'm going to give everybody a chance to jump up. If you have not watched it, available in theaters, available on HBO Max, available everywhere. I want to talk about what I think is such a massive upgrade to this movie from the last one, which is just the first 12 minutes are better storytelling than anything in 2016 Suicide Squad. The fact that this movie can set up a different team, make you engaged with these team members in a minuscule amount of time without having to do any kind of goofy video game, like let's list all their powers bullshit from the last one. Like, I was engaged with the idea of watching a team with Javelin and TDK and Weasel and Blackguard and I don't know, whatever Michael Rooker's character's name was. Like, I was engaged. I was engaged in the idea of watching that team. And the fact that they can kill them off and then cut to the other team and then equally make me interested in that team is just such a massive step up in storytelling from whatever the hell David Ayer was doing in the last one. It's just, it was so enjoyable watching that and then having the jump to the other team and just being engaged with everything that was going on. Like, just the ability to build up that many team members and that many characters with minimal screen time, I think is just an incredibly impressive thing that is just very much a James Gunn trait.
I agree with a lot of what you said, but I'm also I'm really struggling with where I fall in this opening scene in general. But the development of the team and those characters is an immediate moment of like you can jump into James Gunn's world and know you're in a really playful hand going with you, because I think he uses the catalog of characters so creatively, and you do, he highlights their gimmicks enough that makes you like interested in what's going on and how these characters are going to go together. But even like, and maybe it's a lot of it's with Michael Rooker's performance, but you feel like pretty attached to Savant just by how they like welcome him in. You think this is a guy you're going to be following, but what they do, the quick murdering, mauling of all these characters, like, nah, you're not. We're not with these characters. They're not actually part of the story. It's like a trollish fake out to me that I don't know how. It's him just kind of like fucking with the audience in a way that I don't know if is necessary. And maybe in part it's like selfish because there's like a couple characters I wish I could see like longer and more. So maybe that's it. So I don't want to say it's bad. I say I'm still just wrestling. I can definitely be talked on the good side of this. I'm talking about it.
I would say that what it reminded me a lot of, and this isn't a detriment to the movie, and this is a spoiler to Deadpool 2, but there's that sequence in Deadpool 2 with X-Force that reminded me a lot of it. Now, X-Force is more comedic in that sequence, but just the idea of introducing all these characters, and I love how the first shot of the movie I thought was fantastic, and it's just focusing on one character, and we get a bit
great
of a
song choice, amazing song choice.
Johnny Cash.
What was the song?
Perfect.
Johnny Cash live at Folsom Prison.
Yeah.
And
here's some really good song choices. I don't know if they were necessarily fit, but it's also just like great fucking music.
There's one sequence
like
later
Zack
on in the opening we'll talk about, but also just the foreshadowing of the bird, I think that was really cool because we get a little bit of payoff with that in Savant's death. But just starting off with him being recruited into the Suicide Squad, and then introducing the rest of the A-Team characters, and just seeing how all of them we get so much from these characters on the helicopter ride to the beach. Then really the first hour of Aya's Suicide Squad. Like we get a little bit of character moments between all of them, and even just something as Captain Boomerang giving Savant a kiss. When they're on the helicopter, it's just so funny, and just like we get a bit of the characters from each of them, and them talking about Weasel and just like he killed 27 babies, but other than that, he's harmless. He agreed to do this. I just want to understand how that conversation happened. Weasel just shook his head like, "Yeah, I'll join." Like, what the hell is
it's the funniest moment of the movie for me is Pete Davidson's reaction. Like, I'm sent by a fucking werewolf. It was my biggest laugh like throughout the.
It's a great moment.
We also set up Javelin and Harley Quinn, which I think is a little brief, but like we get a bit of them, which then pays off with Javelin giving Harley Quinn his what's it called, a spear?
It's a javelin,
right?
Yeah,
it's a javelin.
The character's goddamn name, Jake.
It's a spear. Fuck you. But I got a question. What was everyone's favorite character of the A-Team? Like in the first 12 minutes on the beach? Like it could have been for whatever reason, like just how crazy the character was, any moments specifically from them. Because my favorite was easily TDK. I love Nathan Fillion, but just the fact that his power is that he could just attach his arms, like that's it. It's not like they can go super fast. It's just they can just kind of just whack people, and we get that great little joke in the movie that's all he can do. And just the fact that he's like so dedicated, and he's like, yeah, I'm really helping the team out with these fucking arms. It's just was one of the funniest moments from the movie for me.
I think that's kind of the point where you feel that they're all disposable when like you realize they can't be taken serious because he's just like.
We're losing Zach.
First,
I will say my favorite. So it's really hard. I really like what Pete Davidson is doing. I know there are a lot of people who don't like Davidson. I find him very funny. I think even the first introduction shot of him, which is that he's sitting next to a guard and he keeps fake touching his gun on the guy and then cuts to the werewolf, but it's really funny. Michael Rooker is always great. And then like Weasel, like I love the fact that James Gunn always puts his brother in his movies. And then just Weasel seems like the most James Gunn character ever. It's the stupidest character in the history of the world. It's a weasel. That's all the character is. There's like no powers, and then he fucking can't swim. That's like an amazing moment. He falls off, and they're like, and then the Joel Kinnaman's like, who's actually like good in this? I think he's terrible in the first one, but I like him in this. It's like, would somebody check if the weasel can swim? That's such a funny moment. And then you have the whole Viola Davis team back there. We're like, Viola Davis is I'm like the first one, it was frustrating because like she's so talented, and the first movie was just not on her level. And I'm glad in the second one they give her way more to do.
Oh my God,
they make her way more interesting. She's way scarier.
Character motivation, just everything like that. Like, she feels like she's more to the plot than.
I like when her just fucking cursing them out when they're not doing what she wants them to do. It's just kind of great moments.
The tech people are all betting on who's going to die first and who's going to die and who's going to live. Like that sort of shit I thought was really funny.
There's so many good character beats even from the beginning. They build a team, they send them out there. And just like, I like the fact that they play into how callous these people are. They're like, that because you think, because like it's a superhero movie. So your initial thing is like, oh, I should be on the side of these characters. We're supposed to like the characters in the movie because they're the ones you're supposed to follow. And the fact that they kind of snap you back to reality and be like, these people are all murderers and terrible. So of course the fucking office drones are like betting on which one of them is going to die first. And like Viola Davis doesn't give a shit about any of them. It's just like a good moment that takes the first movie, which is kind of like, you sort of see Viola as evil, but she doesn't really seem like she ever wants to hurt any of the characters. And I also think that first scene is so valuable because they're called the Suicide Squad for a reason. In the first movie, it is kind of stupid that like one character the entire film dies from the Suicide Squad. And in the second one, they're like, yeah, they're an expendable team of villains. That's what they do. Of course, she would sacrifice an entire team of them on a beach to get mowed down. Like, of course, she would let them all die because she doesn't give a shit about them. They're just pawns in her giant game. Like, I think that scene makes the character of Amanda Waller just so much more realized and so much more fully committed. Like, her job is to get shit done. And her job is, she's given the worst of the worst, and her job is take them and use them. Use them as tools. And if they're expendable, and like any kind of tool, they're expendable, and you throw them away when they're not worth anything anymore.
I think those are the whole.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Jake.
You should go, Jake, because mine's a little off topic. Right, go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say that with the whole idea, I feel like with what James Gunn does correctly, and even if we got to see Aya's like complete film, what we see from that movie is just not it's not the concept of what the Suicide Squad is. Like the whole idea behind these villains essentially being put together and to essentially is a suicide mission. Like it goes back to what the Dirty Dozen was all about. Like they do not care if these people live. They're expendable, and we can just get them and force them to do something because we don't want like soldiers. We don't want people to get killed. Let's have families and shit. Like it just goes to that idea of what the Suicide Squad should be. When you look at Aya's film, there's like soldiers and there's what's his name, Scott Eastwood. Like there are other people accompanying the Suicide Squad because it feels like it just does not go with the whole idea of what the Suicide Squad is. With the first 12 minutes, it just shows you exactly why these people are put together, why these people are on this mission. And as expected, most of them die. Like that's what I like from this opening sequence.
Ayers also tried really hard to make you sympathize with the characters by providing backstory in a way of if you see their trauma, then you can connect to the characters rather than James Gunn goes, I'm going to make you like these characters first and then have emotional beats that make you sympathize with them without needing like trauma to have you connect to them, but make you connect with them as they're still people who have human feelings, not because they lost their families or because this happened.
Absolutely. Zach, what is your favorite character from Team A?
So I'm going to go with a dark horse pick.
All right.
I'm going to pick Mongol.
Wow.
Okay.
Because when she jumps in a fucking helicopter, it's like this some crazy shit. This is like Drax on steroids of her just like going to like for pure vicious. I thought she was about to destroy the whole army. So I enjoyed that. Also, the Weasel rules. Weasel's funny. The Weasel's gross and dumb. And also not a super villain. He's just really just like a large weasel. I don't know why he's mixed in with this. I don't know how even like much thought is in this Weasel's brain, but it's a good bit. I hope we get a Weasel TV show along with John Cena's TV show.
No.
That's another hilarious moment.
Why would we want to see a weasel show? Like,
no, it's just going to be like a wildlife documentary. You have Richard Attenborough narrating this weasel just trying to live in urban city, New York.
He's still on the beach, as we find in the post-credit.
I do think one of the other funniest moments in this movie is that when they're building Team 2 and Bloodsport walks past the Weasel's cell and Weasel is just licking over and over. It's just such a
also should mention, because that goes to what this film does better than Aya's film, is that it's able to go through past and present like scenes, like because that whole opening, and then we go back 3 days later. I feel like that film goes with the non-linear storytelling better than 2016 Suicide Squad. Much better visually. It just makes it easier to follow everything. But
multiple moments of that. Yeah, his editing and direction. Because then at the end too, the climax, it has the little time cut too to bring back how
what happened with Polka Dot Man and Harley Quinn. Yeah.
I mean, and really good use of geography in that. You kind of always understand where people are and how that connects as well, which is smart. We're jumping right ahead. I just want to bring up what I was going to say earlier. Do you think this never would have happened, but how fun do you think it would have been if they advertised this movie with just the A-Team and you had no idea the second team was coming in or were part of the movie? Like you didn't know Idris Elba was in it. You didn't know any of this.
The problem would be, and it would have been pretty cool, but the problem would have been the Team B was going to leak way more than Team A, because Team A is like character actors and people that are not that famous, and Team B is more famous overall.
You still would have Harley Quinn that you can push and Rick Flag because they were still Team A.
A lot of the posters still include like information about Team A, like maybe not full on character posters that they released after it, but like even like a lot of the just like larger posters with a lot of characters on them. They'll feature some characters that are also on the original. I believe they're like silhouettes of them. So like they messed around and were like, yeah, we're gonna include shots of different people. They did like photo shoots for some magazine stuff that mixed the teams together. So like they very intentionally went into this. They were not releasing that piece of information that these teams were, that they were different, that one of them was going to die of it, because they wanted you to be interested. Like there was a lot of discussion in the run up to this about like even like the weirder characters being cast in it. Like I feel like Pete Davidson was talked about arguably more than Ratcatcher 2. Like there was like more discussion for some characters, even like because he also did the smart thing of putting characters that you relate to James Gunn onto Team A. So Fillion and Sean Gunn and Michael Rooker just being a lot of being Michael like, Rooker, well, of course you assume that they're going to be on the main team. So that I think that when you flip the switch on them, it just works really, really effectively. And you're kind of shocked by the fact that they just went out there and basically hosed the entire Team A in the first 10 minutes, 12 minutes of the movie.
Captain Boomerang just gets smushed by the helicopter by fucking Mongal there.
That one honestly hit me a little sad. Like I felt that was like Courtney done dirty.
That's number 2.
All right, we're taking Zack off again. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to make an argument. I don't think it was doing Jai Courtney. I don't think anyone after the first movie wanted Jai Courtney back in this film. I think that one thing James Gunn was really smart about is that he was willing to bring back some of the characters from the first one for small moments. But I think he also was smart enough to realize that in the minds of a lot of the audience, those characters are tainted and tied to a really terrible film. I think it was really smart that they didn't bring back Will Smith and they brought in Idris Elba. I think because Idris Elba is a new character, he's not tied to it. Harley Quinn is the one character that even out of the first one sort of escaped unscathed. I think it was smart to bring back other characters like Courtney and kill him off. And even like you bring back Flag, but then you sideline Flag for the first 45 minutes of the film, which I think was a smart choice. And he's
also just a completely different character. Like it's the same actor, and it's like 9 days between the Suicide Squad and then 2016. It's like completely different, and you can just tell that he's having so much fun with the Suicide Squad. Like the story gives him a lot more to do.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Joel Kinnaman is actually a talented actor. Like he has done good work. And you go back to the first one and like he has to say, I mean, I don't think it's even his fault. If you had to say the lines he has to say in that movie, anyone would sound like the world's biggest moron. This is Katana. She like all that he was like he was just an exposition dump constantly, and it just completely fucks him over in the first movie. He's given nothing fun to do, and it's like, congratulations, you just need to like just exposition dump all over the place. And it's like, yeah, not surprisingly that people walked out of the movie and like he was shit. And I think in this movie they just give him way more to do, and he's an actual character, and you give him the connection to Bloodsport. Like they have this connection in the past, and even like he's always seemed like a really decent person. Also, getting rid of June Moon was the best thing they could do for his character. No one wants him to be the weirdly possessed dude of like the crazy witch. Like getting rid of that whole bullshit made him it was way like he gave him just more latitude to be a character and not just like some kind of bizarre like pawn of other
straight
people.
man to like these wacky, crazy characters. They make him a little more zany, which I think works with the team that we have.
Yeah, it was they really like they were smart about realizing that they didn't have to tie it to the 2016 version. I think that's the smart. They let
100%.
James Gunn just be like, I imagine the meetings with the executives were like, yeah, we don't give a fuck about that 2016 version. Please just do whatever you want. Like we're not going to force you, to do anything.
Here's my one really nitpick problem with Joel Kinnaman, and it has somewhat to do with him being not American, I think. But just one scene, he becomes very Texan. Just for the one bar scene, he's not only wearing the hat. It's like he put on the hat, and then a weird version of a Texan accent comes out that does not exist in the rest of the film. It's like the opposite of when your natural accent is coming out. He just
It's 3.
Losing Zach again. I would say the counterbalance to that is I think that's an intentional choice by the character to play.
It's an intentional choice to just be Texan person.
I think it's a disguise. I think he's going in there trying to
It's a fucking disguise. No one disguises themselves in their voice. It's like no one's gonna know who I am when I talk like this. Now they don't.
Is that not
his same guy?
Normal accent? What is he? Is he not fully American?
No, he's like he basically
Dutch. I thought
he's like Dutch or Scandinavian or something.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, he was born. He's Swedish.
Yeah.
He's Swedish. He was born in Sweden.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think it's an intentional choice. I think the joke is they've just gone through the whole thing where they told King Shark he can't wear the fake mustache, and then Rick Flag puts on a ridiculous hat and a terrible accent, and the joke is like he also because like even all the scenes in the club they always stand out like a sore thumb the entire time in the club. They look like nobody else in there. They act like nobody else in there. And I think the joke is supposed to be that they are also just really bad at
Well,
really
I think they only did that with.
I
John
think you're
Cena,
forgiving it for the little mistake that it is because it doesn't make a point at all. I think he was supposed to be Texan all along and he only remembered it for one scene.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Suicide Squad. Let's keep going.
We've been talking for like 20 minutes about the
Suicide Squad. We're done.
It's so good. There's just so much.
There really is a lot to talk about.
About B
you want to run down the main team now, or?
Well, we'll do the characters in a little bit. I want to talk more about the plot. So then we have the Wipeout, and we go to B team of John Cena's Peacemaker, David Dastmalchian's Polka Dot Man, which is I believe James Gunn himself has described as the stupidest character in comic book history.
I believe that's what he said, yeah.
Which is, I love this about James Gunn, is that he is a comic book person who acknowledges that so many of the characters are stupid and bizarre and weird and make no sense and are just laughable, but then also is completely in love with the fact that they are stupid and laughable and then puts them in his movies and makes them real characters rather than jokes. Like
makes them the most tragic characters ever.
I know it's such a good thing there. And then, of course, Ratcatcher 2, great joke when he goes, we couldn't get Ratcatcher 1.
Couldn't get Ratcatcher 1.
It's a really nice little meta joke. And then, of course, our Lord and Savior, King Shark, who is...
Your Lord and Savior, okay? Mine is Polka Dot Man.
My Lord and Savior is Ratcatcher 2, so
they're all great. I'm not going to hate on anything. King Shark to me is everything you wanted Killer Croc to be in the first one. In the first movie, Killer Croc looks stupid, bizarre, not like a crocodile at all. It's the dumbest character in the entire movie. And then King Shark, they are 100% committed to it is a shark wearing pants walking out of the water, and it's great. And it's just like, and the fact that they get Sylvester Stallone to voice King Shark is genius. It is the best voice ever. I love all the dumb jokes. He's reading a book, but he's reading it upside down. He keeps saying, me smart, me read book. It's like he can't read the book because he's reading it upside down. It's such a good introduction. Just like all the ridiculous stuff with him, Polka Dot Man just being like this weird, like sort of very depressed, like potentially suicidal person who like sort of is okay if he dies. But the freaking first meeting where they get to them and she starts briefing them, and they have the great King Shark moment. He goes, hand. And it's just like, because he's just like, he's kind of an idiot. He's just the muscle for the team.
He's like a child. He's just like learning how to be on the earth.
And
it's a hungry child.
A great joke. Ratcatcher 2 goes, what is that? And she goes, it's an overhead projector. That's because she's the young one of the dude. She's like, what is an
Millennials.
what is the overhead projector? That's a good joke. And it's like, why don't you just throw it out? And then freaking John Cena, just like, John Cena's one of these people, like, he's not a great actor, but this is very much the Dave Bautista thing, where like, if you take these people who are just these
Dave Bautista's our greatest actor, so I don't know what you're saying, but go on.
Big, bulky dude, and like, you have him just like, just the seriousness, the super seriousness of that character, just how he's like, just all the way he delivers all his lines in this, just 100% belief in everything he's saying. Even when he's saying is literally like, I believe in peace so much that I'll kill hundreds of people to do it. Just like objectively laughable lines, just the way he delivers them is great. And just such a.
It's a naive confidence that he can really give off.
I don't even think it's a naive confidence, but it's just like he is so. It's not that he's even so full of himself. He believes that he is like the hero of humanity, and I think from his like introduction, where he's just like up still, just confidence, like he's ready reporting for duty. Like when the whole introduction, because he's also just a great contrast with Idris Elba and Bloodsport in the sense that Bloodsport, he does not want to be in the Suicide Squad. He's being blackmailed by Amanda Waller so that his daughter doesn't go to Belle Reve along with him.
Great moment, because it really sets up like,
that moment.
Fuck, Amanda Waller is evil. Even her team looks at her like,
horrible.
You're going to throw a kid in prison because you want this
100%.
guy. Such a good moment.
But then the exact opposite of Idris Elba is John Cena's been Peacemaker. He wants to be on the Suicide Squad. He wants to achieve peace at any cost, even though that means killing everyone on the planet to achieve peace. It's just so great, that whole. And I've always felt that Cena has become too much of a meme to become a good actor. But in this, it just feels like it's all about the character. And I feel like when someone is passionate and someone just understands the character well enough to portray him, like, you know, in a convincing way, Cena does it. Like, he just knows what to do with Peacemaker. And I think that this is by far his best performance that he's ever given. Not saying that he's given any great performances in the past, but like this one just fits him as an actor really well.
I think he has legitimate good comedic timing.
In this?
He's really funny in Blockers.
In this, and I think in Blockers, but
he's really funny.
Need to rewatch Blockers.
I'm a big Blockers fan, and he is very funny in that.
I just think that's his strength, right? He can't brood. He can't do the serious things. He's not a dramatic actor. But if he can be funny and if he can be like physically intimidating,
I was gonna say
physically,
get a good
performance. Yes, which is why he gets to do this. You do believe him able to do all the physical feats that he does in this movie.
Oh, 100%.
He's just smart about realizing that like he does not look like a normal person. And he is good about using his physicality to point out the fact, especially in movies. This one less so than others, but like Blockers is a movie where he's just very much playing the fact that dads are not supposed to look like, 250-pound blocks of iron
Wrestlers.
Like they're not supposed to look like John Cena, but like plays into that. He's also like very funny on a lot of this shit, like Trainwreck and even Sisters and stuff. He's very good at playing this kind of goofy dude. And even in this, he is a more serious take on it because he's more of a violent, threat to others. But he is still really funny. Like even the first meeting when he's like, starfish is a term for butthole. Like he literally like
he's the one who's writing down like details. He's the only one. Like he's so committed and serious. Like okay, yes, it's so good.
It's a very
that whole introduction, and also just when they introduce Bloodsport and say his father has raised him. Training him to become a killer when he was ever since he was a baby, and then like when they introduced Peacemaker, his father has been training him to become a killer ever since he was a baby. It's like, what are you talking about? He's just the same as me. I'm better. I'm more accurate. It's like, why? You got smaller bullets, and it's like that whole sequence is great. And also the comedic dynamic between both characters is one of my favorite aspects of the movie, as we'll get later on in the movie.
Yeah, lots of good moments.
Who else we got to talk about?
We have to talk about. So Harley Quinn is a character that I think that Margot Robbie plays this character well.
This is where I disagree the most, I feel like.
I think this is by far the best usage of her character in any of the
films. Worst use.
I think it's by far the best use. It's by far.
Wait. What is the best? What is the best?
Birds of Prey. It's the best DCU movie, Birds of Prey.
Okay. No.
Birds of Prey is like not even top 5. But okay. Zach's on a crazy list. It's so good. This is like the first movie that, first off, Harley Quinn should never be the lead of a movie. She's not a good lead character. She's too chaotic. She's too weird. She's too unpredictable. She should not be the lead. She's a great supporting character. The fact that they put her in this movie, you think she dies, then she gets to have like these pop-up moments throughout the film. That's the best use of her. She's so good in all of her scenes in this. we'll talk about the specific scenes later. I just think the whole red dress stuff, like the falling in love montage, falling out of love montage, the torture sequence, even like her escape. I think her escape sequence is brilliant. The crazy like visuals of the flowers behind her. That shit is so good. I like this is the first movie with her that like I've never thought that Robbie was bad as the character because I think she does a good job with it. But I think they've always done a really terrible job like giving Harley something to do that was not annoying. Like I find Birds of Prey like exhausting. I find that what they're doing with her in that movie just stupid and pointless. And I keep waiting for them to give her something.
Yeah, about this.
Zach and you disagree.
Because I think that her lines are just worse written. I think in this movie, for two reasons.
Wait, you really think she's better in Suicide Squad?
Maybe, but she gets more like the shine because she's using this purely as a comedic touch. She's just there for jokes, but then the jokes that are coming out sometimes don't seem natural to what is happening. She's saying these things are just supposed to be. So James Gunn just has this idea that she's either quirky or like hypersexual or like taboo-ish. Not sexual, but taboo-ish. Really do that in her humor, and the quirky jokes aren't natural to what's happening in the moment. There's no need for her to say it. And then the taboo ones are just there for like dumb, like kiddie shock jokes that they don't use in Birds of Prey, and once again don't feel realistic. I hate the splooge line so much, where it's like the world splooging on you.
Nothing,
but it's not something that she would say. So it's not you. And I think action-wise, in this movie, she's much more of an actual superhero. Like she just has like super athletic ability and jumping javelins. When in like Birds of Prey, it's kind of she just like accidentally like falls into like beating people up. It's just like her energy, which is I think a lot more like believable. Her like superpower is her like insanity and just like not caring about like the threat to her life. That she doesn't actually have like super athletic ability.
I think Jake is probably going to agree. I disagree with a lot of that. I think that the way they use her in this, I think that there's so much growth for the character. I think the scene of like going through this ridiculous thing, think you're falling in love with this attractive dude, realizing that's just your crazy moment.
I like that.
He's just a murderer. Like I think that's like the most character growth she's had in the entire franchise. I think her escape sequence is just impressive. I think just the fact that then she offers to go back in and hide. She's so shocked that anyone came back to rescue her is like such a different moment for her. I think she's really funny in this. I actually enjoy her.
I think 80% of her jokes don't work. That's my main reason.
Well, I think what's interesting is her subplot with the general guy, whatever the guy who
I think that's really
wants to marry her. Because the whole idea is that it's less about her being a sexual object. It's more that she is an anti-American establishment. I think that really goes into what the film, a lot of what the plot of the theme of this movie and kind of the message that this film's kind of going for is that America's kind of has made some questionable decisions.
It's a real political commentary on our interactions between many South American countries,
especially Latin America. Yeah, like what what they've done and how he wants to use her essentially as a symbol to unite the Corto Maltese, I think is the name of the.
Yeah.
And I think that also really is an interesting aspect. And her also, she has an arc in that. Like she kills him because she does not want to follow the same trap as she did with Joker. And I think that's the only connection that they have with Birds of Prey in that aspect is how she no longer is with Joker in that. But that also I think is really interesting. She's given just a lot more character-wise.
But why that scene also works, and I also think is still really funny, even though it's like tragic in a way. I think her whole red flag monologue is really funny. It's like, I promise next time I had a boyfriend, as soon as I see a red flag, I'll kill him. And I think killing children's a red flag. And that's her better performances, I think, adding a lot of humor that might not be there on paper. But that is all believable in the moment of what that character is dealing with, and not just her coming and saying, look, I just went number 2 for no reason. Look at the shock joke. I'm Harley Quinn, I'm crazy, rather than having it be part of the moment. She gives like monologues that are part of the moment, and that's why I think she's funniest.
I mean, I'm not going to hear this moment when she's funniest. I don't have the problem with a lot of the other jokes she makes. I think that.
Well, you have shitty sense of humor, so it's okay. Literally shitty sense of humor.
You're like the worst. Joke. I think we all know this. Anyone who's ever watched the show knows that your takes are just consistently bad. Like you defend so many terrible movies, and then you have these like bizarre critiques of like movies that are very good.
Like, jumping way ahead of things. I may have girl and the woman in the window higher than this on my list.
All right, and now you can go back for the rest of the episode. Thank you, Zach. We get our first big action sequence. Oh, there he goes. Bye, Zach.
That's full.
That's fine. That's all right. We get our first big action sequences when they have to go. The team B is told to go. Oh, it's freezing up on us. Thank you, Zach.
I don't think I was out.
You looked for a second out. When you get the, I think a really fun action sequence when they have to go rescue Rick Flag.
Yes.
Not only because it is just a ridiculous dick measuring contest between Peacemaker and Bloodsport the entire time. By the way, can we talk about how the arrow on the arm thing for Bloodsport is one of the coolest weapons in like any superhero movie? And like just Bloodsport in general has some of the coolest weapons. Even like the enemies making the gun out of like the pockets of his suit is just ridiculously cool.
It's such a cool idea for that character because I think that's his whole thing in the comics is that he can make guns or like he can do like that sort of shit. I think Zach just froze again, so that's 5. But the whole idea is that I love that it's just both of them just killing people, like just excessive violence in that whole sequence. Like he's got the dark gun, but he also has the flamethrower. He's got like Peacemaker's got like a
compression bullets.
An axe, compression bullets,
Great movie.
explode. That moment made me laugh. And even them just like looking at each other after a kill, and then you got the bird and then him. I just love that whole sequence. I thought it was just so funny.
I love that the open. It starts with King Shark tiptoeing through the woods to get him behind.
He's in the background.
It's this hysterical moment of this giant shark dude tiptoeing behind him and then eating him. So good. All the fighting is really funny. Polka Dot Man finally shooting polka dots because that's literally the joke they made at the beginning.
He does shoot polka dots.
And then they run up to the place where Flag is. They break in, and Rick Flag is not a prisoner. And it's this really awkward moment of being like the one going, well, why did my team alert me? And then they have to like, oh, we didn't see anybody. And then they go outside, and there's literally just corpses. It's like 20 people they killed, and it's such
King Shark throws up like a ring or something from one of the characters because he ate them.
Yeah, it's such a funny moment because it's just like it really sets up this just ridiculous of oh shit, they are really good at their jobs, but also they totally misread the scene and just
Zach.
I feel like Alice Braga not mad enough about this.
Alicia Braga. I think she's just shocked. I think she has no idea how to deal with the situation. Like I don't know how you deal with that situation. You're like, oh, by the way, we just killed everyone you have.
I'm very curious by what Zach's gonna say about the sequence.
Yeah, I was just gonna be quiet. But I like the action scene, but I think the twist of it is a little cruel. That it was like they killed all the revolutionaries. It's a little, once again, like him thinking cruelty is really funny, and I don't know.
I don't think it's thinking cruelty is funny. I think it's thinking that they did not do any reconnaissance or planning or really much. I don't think it's the cruelty that's funny. I think it's the fact that they did no planning. They didn't check to make sure he's like they have rats on the team.
Sure, but they also like wiped out this whole revolutionary army. It's kind of sad. Like these people were trying to help out.
I think it works because these characters are horrible characters. They're horrible people. If this was like a hero team, you know, like if this is
I
like
think
the characters that we really.
But James Gunn also just thinks it's so cool. It's not just funny they're horrible characters.
I don't think he thinks it's cool. I think he thinks it's funny. Cool. He thinks it's funny, but in a way that works for the film. That makes sense. Like if this was like a hero team, like an actual hero team, I would feel like this is just way too much for these characters. Like you think Peacemaker's and actually. He's a morally righteous character. Like it works for these people. So,
I think it works because this is a team of evil people who enjoy killing, and like I think that scene works because it really gets you on the wavelength of who Pacemaker is as a character. Like he's actively enjoying this, as does Bloodsport. Bloodsport is maybe more human than Peacemaker, but they will still get some level of enjoyment of how good they are at this shit.
Yes,
I do want to go back a second because we've jumped ahead a little bit too far. The scene where King Shark almost eats Ratcatcher 2.
Yeah.
It's a really funny scene because it kind of continues to pound the joke of Ratcatcher 2 is just constantly falling asleep everywhere. And it's also just a really cute scene where she gets the rats to go after him. We revealed that Idris Elba, this crazy badass, is afraid of rats. You get the scene of Inaue realizing he doesn't have any friends. That's like a really cute moment where she's like, you don't eat friends. And then she gives them, they shake hands and like from then on, he's like very protective of everybody else and is kind of this really, he's incredibly powerful, incredibly violent, and incredibly dangerous, but he's also this sort of gentle giant in that he's never had friends before. And that's just a really sweet moment. And this is what, to me, why James Gunn is such a good director, is because he's not only able to do the flashy, fun action sequences, he just has a lot of heart in his movies. He has so much emotion and like character building, and just like the fact that you can do this really small sequence where you then are suddenly on board with like a giant shark being friend with the girl who commands the rats. It's just, you're just emotionally invested in this team of like really bad people really quickly. Even like the ridiculousness of Cena walking up in the world's tightest fighting bodies of all time. It's just a very funny moment. Or even like Bloodsport starting to realize that, Polka Dot Man has to go like they get rid of his polka dots, and then
but he has like
the story about his mom doing it, like starts really building in character to these people in a way that makes you like them without having to just be like a bunch of sob stories. It's just, I think, really, really intelligent character building.
That's connected exactly to what I was saying before with David Ayer, had to just build up these really traumatic backstories to make you connect. When with King Shark, this moment is what starts off his arc, to where you really are emotionally connected by what he's going through in this movie. You can feel his need for like friendship and belonging by what's happening, not by having to build on background for you to care about the character. It's done really well. I will say that the relationship between him and Ratcatcher, I'm a little like unsatisfied with where it ends up. I think there should be a little more payoff to where that, her reaching her hand out to him and giving him a friend should have had some payoff at the end. I definitely thought it was going to be King Shark saving her by the end of the movie. And I think it's a little disappointing as Bloodsport, because that would have been a full circle of that, like him coming for his friend, especially after being betrayed by those evil fish. That he can go to his friend.
We'll get to that.
He can go back to his like true friend, the Ratcatcher, and give back what she gave to him, that grace, that forgiveness that she was able to give to him. But Ratcatcher, what a beautiful human being. She's the best of all of us. And this starts to show that, how forgiving and kind she is.
I was surprised by how much she played into the movie. Like, not just the character. And this is, like, she is a huge part of this movie.
Yeah,
and that's one thing I was not expecting going into
it's
it.
the most successful in the big fight. She's
the most human of all the characters.
She's the heart and soul of the team at the end of the film.
100%,
And I think, actually, I would disagree with Zach. I do agree you could have had King Shark save her. But I also think after the conversation in the bus, as they were driving and talking about their fathers, I think that Bloodsport saving her, I think, totally is also a payoff.
Yeah.
The fact is,
it's kind of having too many things that you can't pay off everything. And they just could pay off the King Shark relationship.
See, I think the King Shark sort of gets pays off because it's the reason why he's open to the friends in the little tank, and then sort of gets that twisted on him. And I think in the end,
that's not full circle. That's like he should learn not to have friends and be trusting of anybody.
And I think also at the end of the film, he is still part of the team that goes after it. I think he's still like. I think it's less about their relationship being 100% the thing and more about him realizing that he doesn't have to fight against the rest of the team. He can be a part of the team, and that he likes being a part of the team and wants to work with them all together. So at the end, when it's like, we're going to ignore Waller and just go after the bad guys, like he's totally in lockstep with that. So we talked about basically Team B up into an important point. Let's go to Harley. She survives the initial attack, is thrown into a pit, which is really hilarious, and she's yelling at them. They throw down this ridiculous dress. They make her put on a bunch of makeup, which is a scene that in the hands of a lesser talented director could be very tone deaf and very boring and very stupid and like laughable and kind of a thing you get mocked at for, like, oh, they're dressing her up like this. She goes to the place. She meets the crazy general dude. She falls for him. He goes on to this ridiculous speech about how he's going to murder all these people. She kills him, and she's captured and said to be tortured. And we already sort of talked about this, but this is, to me, is such an effective scene. I think it's the fact that they're like not going to use Harley Quinn in the way that she is traditionally used is, I think, such a smart move, and I think just incredibly effective. It's just a great scene in my opinion.
I also think it's smart to have her separate from the squad originally, because I think it's weird because Harley works in that sequence because it focuses a bit more on her, and I think that also helps for fans of the character. That gives her a bit of moments on her own, and also leads to the the sequence later on where she escapes from the government and her teaming up with the squad at the end. And it gives her, it kind of, it's like the best of both worlds. It gives her her own standalone moment, but then it allows her to have moments with the squad in the third act of the movie. And it gives us a bit more character for her, and also we find a bit more about Project Starfish. So it kind of works in both ways.
I think also something with Harley Quinn's arc throughout all these movies is a combination of simultaneously trying to find independence while still trying to find like a bond and family, which is a hard comparison to do. And I think this movie does successfully do that. It gives her still her independence. She's still, self-reliant, and that she gets to do her own escape, which leads to that great big punchline of them being so prepped to do this big mission. And she's like, I'm already outside. So that, but also combined with them there to rescue her, gives her that sense of community that she's also like seeking in relationships. Kind of healthy relationships is her real goal and arc.
Because her famous thing is that she was a psychiatrist who was working, doing her job, and then she got warped and twisted into this bizarre abusive relationship with another character. And the original Suicide Squad and then Birds of Prey are sort of about getting out of that.
That one's like same thing though. There is some self-reliance, but then she finds a sense of community with the Birds of Prey and the other females.
This one, to me, I feel like is more effective in giving her the safety and security of people she can rely on.
Because only men can be safe and secure. Got it.
Wow. Thanks, Zach. Thanks, Zach. No, I feel like that the way that they play it off is just that she's the team that she feels more comfortable with. I have a lot of problems with Birds of Prey, and I don't get this. I don't get the satisfaction of feeling like she's reached a good place with the team of people that she's willing to fight alongside, and
that she's just met.
Yeah, I know. I guess she knows Flag, but besides that, because I think that there is something huge about the fact that they were going to divert themselves from their main mission to go rescue her, that she sees as like such a step above what other people have done for her in her life. Like, you go back to like, she's always been this one who keeps waiting for the Joker to do something to protect her and like constantly kind of fails at that. This is the movie where like these people did not have to come rescue her, did not have to like make her the priority over the mission, but like chose to do it anyway. And I think that, understandably, she views that as like a really big sign of like the fact that they value her as a person and consider her somebody worth saving. And also, that escape scene is fucking awesome.
It's great. Oh yeah, with the flowers, and then you see the animated birds. And I don't know what the music they did the song for that sequence, but I also I think can we talk briefly just about the music choices?
Prima Ain't Got Nobody, great song.
Awesome. I should just.
It's Louis Prima who sings "I Want to Be Like You" from Jungle Book.
Yeah, let's talk about the score. Let's talk about the soundtrack because it's a big part of it, especially because James Gunn is famous for the Guardians films, just incredibly good scores.
Thematically, I like what the Guardians soundtrack did, but I also appreciate the Suicide Squad for picking music that I just would not expect. Like, this is a complete contrast to 2016 Suicide Squad. Like, and this wasn't Aya's intention with the soundtrack, but it's just the most popular songs that you could put, from Bohemian Rhapsody to Kanye West,
and just jumps from song to song, like
Eminem, and it just cuts, skip. Rolling Stones, we get it. Like, she's the devil. We don't have to have a song with the whole Rolling Stones. It's just, the choices of the music is just so blatant. And
James Gunn saves
inorganic.
Yeah, James Gunn saves songs for set pieces, like to be
absolutely
background to everything that's happening on the screen. When the other one just used it as like environment creators.
When I realized that this was going to be a better choice of music than Suicide Squad, the 2016 Suicide Squad, was when we got to see the aftermath of the Team A, where we get to see what happened to all the characters, and the camera's going around showing Captain Boomerang with just his arm holding a boomerang, and I can't remember what the song is, but that frenetic like energy, like he just knows what song to choose for certain sequences, and I think that really plays into the movie. And even just the music by John Murphy, it's not super, like, it's not the best music I've ever heard, but it's it fits and also keeps the energy going, and also stylist. I just really also like that. I also like John Murphy in general, but I think the music choices, or him, just his composition of the music, I think really works well in the movie.
Yeah, that's one thing with the 2016 version. You're right. It's such just stupid. It's just like they didn't even care about what music they were putting over the scenes. It was just like it almost feels like they had two separate people do the sound and somebody do the video, and just like they just synced it up and hit play, because like there just doesn't feel like there's any conscious thought to any of it. And this one, and something that James Gunn always does, is that there is a lot of conscious thought into what he is doing. Like he is intentionally, and you can tell because it's always like, you know, it's never the most famous stuff. Like even the Guardians movies, that they have like very specific, you know, decades of music they're taking from. But it's not like he just took the 10 most famous songs from those decades. Like there's a lot of deep cuts. There's a lot of like, it's the 6th most famous song from that person. And it's the reason that it just works effectively, because every song is just like, yep, that fits that scene. Yep, that fits that scene. Oh, it makes sense. Like it just it does the perfect thing where it makes the scene better rather than like distract you, because you're like, why did they use this? You know, he's just very good at it.
So since I froze for a little bit, but I want to say, Jake, you might enjoy this little bit of music trivia as well. So the song you're talking about during the showing the deaths is "People Who Died" by the Jim Carroll Band. Great song, which I don't know if you know who that is, but it's the guy who wrote the book that Basketball Diaries is based on. It's Jim Carroll lived the Basketball Diaries and then made this punk song "People Who Died" about all his friends who died.
Oh my god.
Crazy.
Wow. And even one that thematically that song works. Like the song is called "People Who Died," and also just the tone of that song works for the movie, and the way the camera is just panning around and showing Mongol's burnt corpse to TDK just filled with bullet holes. Like it just works for that scene. And also, I think the music also, the John Murphy score also fits tonally with those songs. Like compare that with like Stephen Price's music from Suicide Squad to the pop songs that's used in that movie. It's just a completely contrast. It just does not work at all, and that's because it's two different movies that's at play. With the Suicide Squad, there's a singular tone that's going on.
And why People Who Die is perfect is because the song itself is simultaneously really sad and tragic and dark, while having that upbeat punk sound and fun and exciting, and having that mixture of how you can, mourn while also having fun, which is what that scene is doing. So it's not trying to undercut the sadness or the mourning of all the people who died, but also it's a Suicide Squad movie, and we're going to keep jutting forward. And
yeah, it is.
And then you got the Decemberists. It's a great Decemberist song. You got the Fratellis for the choir. That's a lovely, really slow dance song. That's what they play when Harley Quinn and what is he, Colonel, or falling in love. Fucking great song. Just good songs. I don't know if I fully think everyone works, but they're good songs. I don't care. I was on the treadmill watching this and singing the Fratelli song at the top of my lungs.
Fair. It's a good cardio worker right there. Extra lung capacity. So they rescue Harley. You're right. It's just such a fun scene. I love the flower. I don't even understand what the flowers mean. I don't understand what a lot of it means, but it's just fun to watch.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't really, but it's also the sort of thing where it's just visually engaging to the point. Sometimes just filmmakers are visually engaging, and it doesn't necessarily mean something. It's just an interesting image. And then her escape, and then outside, and they continue even the fun team dynamics of Polka Dot Man is so depressed. He's I don't think there are any cars coming. He's so unsure of himself that he's unwilling to even commit to he looks on the street. He's there's clearly no cars coming, but he's unwilling to even just definitively say that. And then, Anawe, the King Shark, is just talking about a bird he saw.
Oh my God. And now he stay off the camera. He's just, it's just so weird. He has many great moments throughout, King Shark, Nanawe, I think is his name, right?
Yeah.
I also just love. I mean, I don't know. I was gonna jump to the scene where he's at the aquarium, but we can get to that later. I do want to say, do we want to briefly go back to when they go to the club and they have to find Peter Capaldi?
Yeah, we're about to do that right now.
Yep.
Yeah, so that is
love it. That's all I'll say. Love it.
the thinker. Peter Capaldi is the thinker. Just a ridiculous character. He looks like he has like nips.
Good makeup. Really good makeup.
It really does look really good. Like
good,
it looks like you're like, yeah, in this crazy world, I think that a character actually could do unto himself. And like, you know, early in the film, he's revealed to be the scientist behind Project Starfish, which is American astronauts saw this thing floating in space and brought it inside, which is sort of like a commentary on like Americans sometimes overreaching their boundaries and maybe should not be it. Sometimes Americans in history have not been as safe or as thoughtful with actions before they happened, and then Starfish like sheds these things out of him and like takes them over. They look like the face suckers from Alien, but it's like a starfish. It's a ridiculous villain, but the perfect thing for a James Gunn film, because it feels like the kind of giant, ridiculous, brightly colored creature that he thinks is, you know, just like he enjoys putting in as a villain in his films. I mean,
it also works. It also works with the team. Like I can see, like Polka Dot Man, Ratcatcher, King Shark, Harley Quinn, Bloodsport fighting a giant starfish. I can't see Deadshot, Captain Boomerang, Killer Croc fighting a 1,000-year-old witch with like supernatural powers. Like I feel like it makes sense the situation like that they have to face. Like it's more believable. Like I think Captain Boomerang is not going to do anything against this Enchantress. You know, like it works better as a villain.
Yes, that first movie has one of the worst villains in comic book. Like it is atrociously bad. How ridiculously not fitting in the film, and also just like not interesting of a villain that they put in the first one. And come on, it's a fucking giant starfish.
Giant starfish. That's all we need.
As I was running on the treadmill watching this, Sarah, my wife, walks in to do laundry as she normally does when I'm doing non-productive things, and just sees Starro like stomping on all the buildings, and just goes, "This movie looks really silly. What are you watching?"
You're like,
she was like having no patience with what I was doing. She's like, why this? Why is this what you're watching?
So much fun though. So much fun. So they take the thinker. And this is another really good character building moment. It's like the classic, very classic team building, hanging out, drinking some beers, and like that's a very fun scene where they kind of hang out in the club, and like Bloodsport's like, no, we're not going to drink, and then like Peacemaker's like, yeah, we are, and a really sad moment too when you cut outside to King Shark underneath a blanket, like tapping his foot along the moon. It's heartbreaking. The poor guy just wants to be in there. Like it is insane. Like I was literally watching this and I'm like, I have gone silly. My brain has gone to mush. I'm sad for a giant shark inside of a van who wants to be inside of the music.
His disguise just wasn't the best. I mean,
it's a great moment. He's like, I will fake mustache. And then he like another great moment is he learns how to speak Spanish. Like
oh my god,
so many funny moments with King Shark.
Hey, he's learning Spanish now.
He's so funny. And they're like, this is the worst fake mustache I've ever seen. Fuck you! And he just walks off. It's just a really funny moment. You feel genuinely bad for him as outside. They have to capture the thinker. They sneak out the back, Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher, and the three guys have to get captured in the process. You know, they escape, and there's like a lot of these really fun moments that we don't have to talk about the fights because it's a fight scene we've seen in a lot of movies inside of like vehicles. It's not that interesting, but it's enjoyable. I'm not trying to crap on it, but I don't think it's like there's a lot to discuss there. I do think that this comes to another really fun moment in the film, whereas James Gunn really likes making the environment around his characters give you messages about what they have to do next or where they are in time. Like we talked about this at the beginning, but like beach debris is what tells you that like you have to go to a different time period. 3 days earlier is in soap bubbles on the toilet that Bloodsport is cleaning. Smoke says Operation Jotunheim and then changes to Operation Harley.
He's like the
first it's fire. And then it turns into smoke to be Harley Quinn.
They're essentially chapter titles that he's
that's
using,
what I was that's what I kind of
took
it as. And then we get the Suicide Squad versus Starro the Conqueror. Like that shit was cool. That was like
Jotunheim abusing like the top of the rooftops and like pipes on like there's a lot of just like James Gunn's just clearly having a lot of fun stylizing it and making it look like a comic book, because those are like very
absolutely.
like things you would see at the top of panels in a comic strip, being like, oh, now it's Operation Harley, like that. Then they go into the Operation Harley. Do you guys have anything to say about the club scene and the like the capture of the thing?
I love people dancing always. All characters and cast should dance together at some point in the movie. It's lovely.
I like how weird their dances are to the characters. Like John Cena's very swaggering. Polka Dot Man looks kind of scared all the time.
Ratcatcher's really like girl at a rave who's just like in her own head, and that's what she was, just like blissing out in her own mind.
I also like this Desmalchian. I think I want to talk briefly about Polka Dot Man because I haven't, but I also just love that we get the right amount of times to see his mom, as because that's what he does. He visually sees his mom as everyone else, and we get the one joke early on at their camp, but then we get another one when at the dancing. And at first I didn't even notice it until I looked around and it was like, what the fuck? It's just like the perfect, like the mother, whoever played the mother, like hats off to you, because she looks like the ultimate mother that I've ever seen in any movie ever. Like, especially when we get
now looks like a mad scientist.
Does not look like a mad scientist, to be honest. But I also just love the whole sequence. He visually sees Starro as just giant. His mother is just giant Godzilla, just destroying everything. I also just like that's a nice little character moment. We just get a bit of a character moment between Red Flag and Bloodsport, which is cool because like they've said they've known each other, like they were in some war before early on in the past, and we get a bit of moment between that. It's just also just nice brevity because there's a lot of action in the movie, and it's also just that's what Gunn is really good at, is giving these characters a bit of time to breathe and a bit of time to just have fun. And we compare that to the Suicide Squad, we don't get anything like that. And I think that works really well with this.
Yeah. And it's important to the emotional reactions at the end, especially building up the Bloodsport and Flag relationship. Mm. Because then when you kind of get, it's a quiet moment, it's a subtle moment where they're just like, I liked him. And he's like, I liked him too. But you feel more power than that like 2 seconds of them saying that, because they built those relationships before and you truly believe that they had some kind of friendship. Which I think is another way that this movie works better than the other one. It's just that you get to see the characters liking each other, just like enjoying being around each other's company and being friends, essentially coming together as a team, rather than especially just being like solitary beings forced together. But they're more especially just like outcasts coming together.
He's looking down at Will Smith and Margot Robbie and Killer Croc and like all those in Suicide Squad. Like especially Deadshot. Like he's just full on like. That's supposed to be part of the arc, because at the very end of the movie they're like kind of okay with each other, but this one it just feels like he's on the same level.
They're equals.
Like he's not looking down at these people. He's like, we've got a mission to do, and I think that also just makes more sense for him to be like a team leader in this film. Like, what the fuck does he do in Suicide Squad that makes him like so great?
Nothing. He gets taken over by June Moon.
Yeah, that's true. That's the only part of his character. Like,
yeah. By the way, so Polka Dot Man's mother is played by Lynn Ash, who also appears in Boy Erased as the aunt of one of the people in the conditioning program. I'm blanking on the name. Also plays famously Sean's mother. Sean is the Paul Walter Hauser character in I, Tonya. So,
what did you just say? I, Tonya?
Yeah, I, Tonya.
Oh, thank you for correcting yourself there.
My apologies. It's been a long podcast. My voice got tired. But plays the mother of my favorite character from My Tonya.
My favorite character from My Tonya was the Sufjan Stevens song that didn't get accepted.
No, it's clearly Paul Walter Hauser. He's amazing in that film. He's hysterical and also one of the most spot-on impersonations of a real-life person I've ever seen. Yeah, Polka Dot Man is so good. David S. Motion is one of these people who's just constantly in comic book movies because he has just an incredibly unique look. No one looks like him. There's not a single other person in the world who looks remotely like him. You would never be like, man, I wonder if are you actually like you're never going to confuse him for somebody else.
He also just loves comic books. Like that's his thing. He's just a big fan. I can't remember what he did write a comic book. I can't remember what it was, but he just is a big fan of these characters, and the fact that he's like so ingrained almost like at this point in the DC universe. Like I think he's on The Flash, he's in famously The Dark Knight. Like he just loves appearing in these movies, and I always just found him to be like a theater actor. Like I didn't think of him as someone who just loves, because his look and also the choices that he makes, like as an actor wise, like his performance in Prisoners, and then you watch that, and then you watch this. It's just like, wait, that's the same actor. Like you just, I always found it to be. I always thought he was like more of a pretentious sort of character, and that's, I'm not saying that as a detriment. And I just like that he is having fun and he is playing characters that he wants to play.
I believe he also has like a very dark and troubled background. I think he had some addiction issues in the past and whatnot. And not to say this like made him a better actor, but I think he does use that pain to bring this kind of soulfulness and sorrowfulness to these comic book characters. So he's connecting his real history to make these, kind of goofy comic book characters seem more soulful, seem more, emotive.
Yeah, he was a heroin addict for 5 years. Earlier in his life. He has also been in The Dark Knight, 2 Ant-Man films.
Yes, Ant-Man.
He's voiced the Calendar Man and Oswald Cobblepot in like Batman, like animated films. He was also on Gotham and The Flash. Sort of made a career out of playing sort of ridiculous characters. Also, Calendar Man in this film and insults him in the early scene, played by another Sean Gunn character. Yells at him.
Pretty sure it's not an accurate Calendar Man portrayal had any sense, but sure.
Oh, he's got the mumps on his.
You got that, yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, no, he's really good. Just has like so many moments where you think he's another crazy person, but then has these really like succinct moments of like, not believing certain things, or even the moment when oh my God, I'm blanking now. The driver who's been driving them around.
Morton? No, something like
Milton. It's a whole bit, guys. You love the
Milton,
Harley Quinn joke so much. Fucking Milton.
What's his name?
When Milton dies.
Milton.
When Milton dies, just like the moment where he's like the only person who's like, yeah, he was Milton. He was a really nice guy. Like he has this like real humanity to him. He has the great moment at the end where he kind of, he gets his superhero moment and then is unfortunately crushed, which sort of like ties it back to the fact that he's a bit of a crazy person. I was looking at some interviews. I guess originally he was going to survive and Ratcatcher 2 was going to die. And then James Gunn was like, yeah, we
that would
can't.
Have been a horrible choice.
James Gunn made the smart choice, which is like, you can't kill Ratcatcher 2.
She's the
hardest movie. She's too sweet. She's too nice. She's too innocent. Everybody in the cast likes her. Every other character likes her who's around her. And like, just kind of wanted to do. And like, that I think was a smart choice.
This is what I was saying at earlier. Is I think Ratcatcher and Shark were untouchable. And Shark gets very close to you thinking he's dead or about to die. And I was like, this movie can't do it. Like they literally let you know anything can go. But I think that's to the benefit of this movie is how connected I was to those two characters that I felt like of everyone dying, these two were like so untouchable. So I was really connected to what they were doing, what they're going on. But
I think that's
because
also
I think they're
one of my few real flaws with the movie is that when the characters are that, I don't want to say disposable, but expendable, it makes it kind of unfortunate to see certain characters die. Like I kind of felt that with Captain Boomerang.
That's what I
just because I feel like there could have been something with that character, especially since he was one of the best aspects of the. Yeah, a little bit, but like
really? We're gonna go.
I think I would have slightly.
What? Wow. Okay, do you know him as a person? You're acting like he's this horrible person he needs to be treated.
He's a pretty atrociously bad actor.
He works for certain characters. Like he works for Captain Boomerang.
You can treat him with respect.
Is he? Does he work for Captain Boomerang?
Yes.
He does. I think he's good in the movie too. And I was kind of excited to see him for another hour. And then he's gone.
He cut someone's head in half. That's good. That's good enough for me. But I just feel like I would have liked this movie slightly more if Polka Dot Man lived. And I'm a little biased just because I've been standing for Polka Dot Man since almost a year. Just ever since that character trailer that they showed, I'm like, Polka Dot Man is my guy. But I just felt like when there are certain characters that you really care for, it kind of is a bummer to see them die. And the fact that it's not like it would have been a little cliched, but him to just have his kind of moment in death. He does have his moment where he helps and he's like, I'm a superhero, but then he just gets smushed, and I knew that was coming, and I really hate that I just expected that to happen, but I just would have liked the movie more if he lived. Just especially since he's he's on the edge of being crazy and the suicidal tendency of joining the squad, and also how soft-spoken he is, and his tragic story, backstory with his mom. I just feel like that would have been cool to see him live.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I think that like that is the one moment in the film you're like, that was a little bit too telegraphed because you've just seen movies like that before. Like there's been so many movies where people get their big moment and then get killed swiftly after it. I think in hindsight it would not have. I don't think it negates the impact of the film if he survives to the end. I don't think there's that hurts the impact of the battle if he survives rather than dies.
Yeah, there's no reason they had to kill him. Yeah,
but if it was a choice between Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher 2, I would choose Ratcatcher 2 to live easily.
Yeah.
Like if it had to happen, then yeah, oh absolutely.
The kind of purity that Shuri and the shark, I think, both have.
Well, Polka Dot Man also sort of wants to die the entire film, so it's like part of the reason that, he actively talks about it. Like, it's sort of the reason why that killing him off is maybe less of an abomination than it would be for some of the other characters.
It's almost, remember, he's infected with a virus that's going to haunt him whether he feels like he's a hero or not. So in a way, it's freeing him from this disease he's like fighting his whole life.
Yeah.
So they attack Jotunheim? Is that
they attack Jotunheim? By the way, Jotunheim, which is also the name of one of the worlds in
Thor. Yeah.
I thought it was pretty funny, and I was like,
I think mythology-wise, it plays into the movie.
Well, I also just think it's funny because it's funny because it's James Gunn. It's the guy who crossed over from Marvel to DC, also using. Yeah, no, I mean, so the thing is, it's one of these weird scenarios where like the comic books have their own lore, but also because they both ripped off Norse and Greek mythology, Jotunheim is something from Norse mythology. It's not a specific Thor concept, which is why it can exist in both worlds. It's a reference to the land of the giants, and so it kind of works in both. We learn about they have an attack. It's a really fun scene. The fight is really cool. The fact that they set it in the rain, you get the awesome king shark ripping a person apart as lightning cracks in the background, which is just
that's the part I hate. That's the worst fucking shot in the movie. That's the most. Look what I can do. Look how fucking cool this is. To where it's just gratuitous. It's just so gratuitous.
It's gratuitous, but it's in the best way. It's what I want to see. Like if I'm going to see,
I'm worried about you.
How do you make a PG king shark?
You can't
in this type of movie. You
don't have to spotlight it like that. You can rip, but they freeze on it.
But that's why I love is that it is a spotlight
poster that you can hang up in your morbid ass kid's room with this shark.
I'm gonna do that.
Please
you would definitely hang that up, and I would call the fucking cops to put a watch on you.
It's a great. Okay, this is a ridiculous take. It's a ridiculous, over-the-top superhero movie about a bad guy team up, and they let a character look awesome and killing somebody.
Thinking that's awesome is weird.
In the context of the movie, it is awesome.
Is it?
You have this bizarre Zach. I think that you would enjoy these movies more if you were able to divorce reality from like comic book world. Because
I can, but there's still a level of like ejaculating at like guts that is going to be uncomfortable. Always.
It's such a great shot, though.
It doesn't matter.
It's arguably the best or second best shot in the entire film. The only thing I think it's comparable is the Harley Quinn shot with the flowers behind her as she's fighting. I think those are the best two shots in the entire film. Or maybe one of the King Shark shots when he's like dancing with the creatures. I think it's so fucking cool. I think the fact that they put rain so that the guards can't see them, you get another kind of really awesome attack. Which also, because they put the rain and they put like the elements into it, makes it more interesting than a just straight on assault at a building, which we've seen in a billion things. So it makes it kind of cool. They get inside. They start setting charges. Some people are going to go down to Project Starface. The Inoue moment where he makes a peacemaker out of the explosive is it's such a cute moment. Oh my God, how on earth is this giant shark the cutest character in the entire film? It's such a good moment.
That made me laugh.
I wanted to. I had before you get too far. I have one more thought about the King Shark thing because I think this is my point of when it's just like capital C, cool. Look at what I'm doing. The difference is real cool. Is like you walk in, you're wearing cool clothes, and you just look like you don't give a damn about anyone else. You just carry your natural coolness, and that's how you are. Or like, look at me. I bought a motorcycle and I got a fucking sword. Please love me. I'm really cool.
Or I don't know.
That's what that is because it spotlights it. And it's like, look, I'm cool. I'm James Gunn. Look at me. Rather than just like naturally letting it be cool.
Or you could like, I don't know, be Simone Biles and do like 7 flips in a row and land. And
and she fucking owns it. She's just natural about it. She's not like show-offy about it.
I mean, she just did 7 flips in a row. I'm pretty sure that's pretty.
If she did 7 flips in a row, froze, put a spotlight on her, had blood splashing out the thing, then I'm like, you're doing too much, Simone Biles. You're doing too much. Chill out. It's just too much. It's too much. That's what
Zach has a problem with like people trying or something. I'm confused. You have some weird takes, dude. I like you a lot, but you have some really weird takes.
I think this is a pretty normal take, and I think you have some weird takes.
It works visually with the rest of the movie.
It works. Totally works with the rest of the movie. Like the thing is that
I think a lot of the movie has moments of that show-offiness that's unnecessary. So yes, it fits. The rest, I think there's a lot of other things that exemplify that too. He's doing too much.
I feel like you watch an entire movie and you get really stuck on these moments.
You mean the movie? Like
no,
the style of what the fucking movie is? No, but I get stuck on the general style.
The movie is all clearly one genre, one tone, one style, and it feels like you sometimes come.
I get it. I don't like the style.
I'm expecting a straightforward like drama, and then they're like, "Why are they showing off or doing violent stuff?" Like to me, it just I don't understand like the perspective you come into the film. It almost feels like you come into the film intentionally not on the wavelength of what you're about to watch.
No, I'm on the wavelength. It's whether I like that wavelength or not. I don't like that wavelength. I get that's what it's doing. I don't enjoy that.
I don't know. It feels like
you can't force me to enjoy something.
I'm not trying to force you. I'm saying getting really mad at that one shot in the film. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I don't like that style. I don't like that stuff in movies.
Would you say?
I can't. You're just telling me to accept it because that's what it is. But I just can't accept it because I find it stupid.
Well, it's not even that. I'm saying that like I'm more surprised that because you don't like that shot, I'm more surprised that you're not also mad at 70 other shots in the film.
I am.
Also,
I just didn't pinpoint them. This was just the most exemplified.
All right.
But would you say that your feelings on violence have changed since you've become a father yourself, and that now
maybe a little bit with where culture has gone, maybe has gotten me that way. I mean, as a kid, I would have been like fucking thrilled. Like I loved like Shoot 'Em Up, which I know is a close one to you, Jake, and I loved like 300 when I was 16. I'm just not 16 anymore, and it just doesn't like get my guts anymore.
You're the most mature of the three of us, and so I guess
old and washed is the term I was going to use, but okay.
I mean,
I can do ultra violence, and like I like John Wick's violence, and I like.
But I would not call that ultra violent. I would not.
No, and that's probably why I like it. and I mean, Logan has the rated R violence, but doesn't like make it seem like you're supposed to feel that's so cool. It's just, I think that's carrying the coolness naturally.
Well, I think
you don't like the idea of visually of a guy being ripped in half by a giant shark.
Yeah, the spotlighting of it. Let's really look at this and take this in to me. Yeah.
Well, I think Logan also gets away with it because Logan is intentionally dramatic and more like realistic about its violence in the film.
It's still like fun violence,
but it's not going to be flashy. It's not going to be flashy. Like there's more consequences to the violence. Like Logan gets hurt.
Yeah, that's why I don't like flashy violence.
Okay, that's fair. All right, I'll let you allow. Let's talk about Project Starfish. So they go down to the basement.
I'm working on it myself.
Zach not liking flashy violence, but then like being in favor of Project Starfish.
I love weird shit.
Was not the take I was expecting. Zach's like we should control people with starfish little things on their faces. Was not a take I was expecting.
Man, that starfish also low key one of the most tragic characters in the movie. It has a real sad arc.
It is. Yeah. There's the moment like I was just happy floating around in space is the moment that happens later. Because really the tragic moment is that it was taken by the Americans and then used in these experiments and used basically with only harm intended. The idea was only to like, we're going to, control people and mess them up and hurt them and like cause, harm to the others. And this is actually a really cool scene because then it leads to two things. One being Rick Flag's like, no, we need to tell people about this, which is the first moment in the film you're like, oh, maybe he's not the obedient soldier we were sold. And the second is Peacemaker is there as Waller's insurance policy to make sure that basically the information doesn't come out. And that's the moment we also realize, oh, they didn't really want us to destroy this Jotunheim because of Project Starfish or because of the threat to humanity. They wanted us to destroy it because it implicated the United States in the actions, which I feel like is something that is way more true to life than like actually just trying to destroy a dangerous villain.
That's when I realized this movie was going to be a lot more thematic in its storytelling. Because when you go into the movie, I'm expecting this is just going to be like, it's going to really, it's just what it's going, its intention is just to embrace its comic book roots and just become a fun, violent James Gunn movie. But I like the aspect of what it's trying to do and how America's relation with Latin America, and it just feels like it's a lot more political than I would have expected. But I also appreciate that it's taking a more mature route in that aspect, especially with Rick Flag. And this is one thing that I really like is Rick Flag is central to this theme. Like he's the one realizing that maybe the country that I've been serving is not right. And then the exact contrast is Peacemaker. And like it's him being Amanda Waller's backup, I think also plays into the fact that he, as his character's motivation, he will do whatever it needs to be done, in order to ensure peace. Because then as information goes out, then it could not be great for his motivation as a character. So I like that they play onto that, and I like that there's a bit of that dynamic in the squad in the third act. It's not just them teaming up to fight Starro. It's them. There's a bit of in the squad action going on.
Yeah, and it's a natural portrayal. It's not just for the plot's sake. It makes sense that Peacemaker would do that, as you say, because he is kind of just like a real military guy that like does it for the best of the country and what he's kind of told, and he has this like questioned trust in his authority and the country as a whole. But I think that is taking the concept of the Suicide Squad, and which is inherently about political manipulation of military and of people, and using that in a real thematic and intelligent way, and using it with interference with other with global politics, so just that manipulation of people in general for the American purpose in a way. It's smart and not overdone to make this not a Suicide movie or not a fun movie, used in the right extent, I think.
Yeah, Peacemaker is a character that is soul-minded. He has only one goal, and that is to achieve. And that's kind of like, it plays into the character's initial introduction, which is that you initially think the idea of a character being called Peacemaker who's killing people is ridiculous. But then you realize that what really is at stake here is he's highly trained and just has a completely warped sense of what peace means. So in his mind, peace is doing this, this, and this, even though to the majority of other people, he really just somebody who is probably psychotic and insane to the point where he believes like he has a completely warped and twisted sense of reality and what even peace means. So like in his mind, peace is the U.S. This information, like Waller has twisted him and forced him to the position where he believes that peace
American peace.
Peace is achieved by not letting America. Yeah, like peace is achieved by not letting America's secrets come out. And Rick Flag is still a person to the point where he can differentiate between what is morally right and what his mission is telling him to do, and then has the ability to choose between those. In Peacemaker's mind, there's no difference. Like morals, like I don't think he has a moral center. I don't think he has the ability to feel right from wrong. He just knows he has this soul-minded goal of like, I will achieve peace. And the way he's doing it is, bizarre to the majority of the world. But in his mind, that is, that's the only way.
He thinks he is the main character, which I think works for what the movie's trying to be.
Yeah,
in that
I mean,
sense.
he definitely thinks he's the main character in all the scenes. He's like, he thinks he's the biggest. I mean,
He's the hero.
It's kind of a great move to be like the guy who is just ridiculously jacked up. Like he's just in a constant dick measuring contest with everyone else in every scene. He's like, I'm the biggest. I'm the biggest. It's kind of his constant mantra, like behind every one of his actions is he's always trying to prove like that he's the alpha. He's the number one. And, mostly because he's just unflinching and will kill anyone. And that in his mind is why he is like top dog.
And his like belief in the like political system is the only right one. That's also the best.
Oh, yeah.
He's like in his mind, he's the morally correct one of everyone.
And
so not just physically, but mentally as well.
And I don't know if they're doing this to set up the Peacemaker TV show, but there's 2 moments where he almost questions what he's doing. There's the sequence where he kills Flag, which I was not expecting that at all.
Absolutely.
I was not expecting that to happen. But there's the part where he tells him that Flag tells him that he's a joke. He's called Peacemaker. And there's that moment he has where he just realizes that is what I'm doing wrong. And it's almost like he hates to have that moment because it's like, no, this is against everything that I have stood up for. And we get that similar moment almost when he kills Ratcatcher. So.
Yeah, so then we have a fight. As you said, Peacemaker kills Rick Flag. He chases after Ratcatcher. And then
8 minutes later, 8 minutes ago.
Yeah, they cut back and realize that, what did King Shark do? King Shark goes off and has this really funny, adorable moment where he's looking at these like tiny fish in a cage who form together to make a king shark shape, and then he thinks they're like his friends. It's just a really sweet. It's also just like,
is it sweet? It's not sweet. You think it's sweet.
Well, it is. It's
the whole intention
of that
scene is sweet.
It's sweet in terms of like what King Shark believes the moment is. And also, I just gotta applaud James Gunn for like in the middle of your end scene of your ridiculously large comic book movie that you're like gonna cut away for like 5 minutes of King Shark doing like a dance in front of doing a jump in front of an aquarium of little tiny fish. It's just like it's why he's really good at these movies. Is because he's willing to take these small moments that other directors wouldn't, where they'd be like, well, we have to press on to the final battle sequence. And for him, he's just willing to do like these really small kind of what could be considered superfluous or like not, needed scenes, but like are like emotionally and like character wise are really needed, but like plot wise don't add anything. But like it's really important for like our connection to the characters and just makes you like the movie more.
We also just need these moments because you just want a little bit of brevity with the whole action scene. And I just like that he just allows these characters to have their moments without it feeling unnecessary. And the fact that King Shark, he's like a kid in a candy store, the way he's just running around like, oh, I've got friends. Like, it's so adorable. And I just remember watching that going, I can't believe this is in the movie. This is just perfect. But also what happens later on, I think is amazing. Like, that's so good. What happens later.
Honestly, the most terrifying and upsetting moment for me. Those fish biting him and screaming in pain, it like hurt me on the inside.
It's like
I like felt those fish bites. Yeah, that's when I thought he was dead.
Yeah, there's a lot of blood in that water. So then we cut back to the other team. Polka Dot Man accidentally sets off the explosion after the death of Milton by shooting his polka dots.
We just mentioned briefly, his polka dots can just melt people. We see that it just dissolves people.
It's just like acid. He's just like spitting out acid or bit.
Yeah, something as flamboyant as shooting polka dots, and it's like the most dangerous thing ever.
Like, arguably, he's the most powerful character on that team. Like,
well, we come to know that Ratcatcher is truly the most powerful. She can take over a whole city.
Here's the thing: if he stayed alive and didn't die, he would have burned through Starro.
He only made it through the bottom leg. He had a lot of work to do.
He got killed. If he lived, he would have destroyed the eye easily.
He also, I don't think, has unlimited polka dots. I think he's clearing out his infection, and eventually has to reload or the virus regrows.
I don't know. If he's got an infection, viral load is pretty high in the body. I feel like that the regeneration process could happen quickly. Those things.
But you see him deplete himself, so he has
to do it twice a day. So.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we're getting the indication that means that he can't shoot it more, or that he has to do it twice a day to not die. Like I don't like there's an
but it's growing and manipulating, so common sense would be it would go lower the more he let it out.
But does he necessarily have a level in his body that he can always shoot, or does like I don't know if that's like he needs to be.
Does he have a starfish amount in his body? I don't
know, man. We'll have to. That they don't give us that information, unfortunately. The explosion happens. A bunch of the characters have to jump. King Shark lands on the ground, and the people.
The aquarium breaks. There's the attack with the jellyfish, whatever they are.
Heartbreaking. Betrayal is also bad. It's a real E2 Brutus scene.
And then can I just say we get what I like about this sequence, because it could be excessive. The whole building collapses and it's like this massive like building destruction. That could have been excessive if it was like another director. But the fact that it's centering on these characters like in the sequence and them like jumping off, and I just really like that sequence in general, because it could have been like massively excessive to the point where I just sensory overload and just have no idea what I'm looking at. Yeah. It could have been just way more excessive.
A YouTube channel called Cinefix did a video one time about like large scale action sequences and why they function or don't. And they talked about how they use the example of the Battle of Helm's Deep, and how in the Battle of Helm's Deep you have over 13,000 soldiers. But the reason that scene never gets overwhelming is because you're constantly focusing on individual characters and their actions. And this is kind of another great example of like large scale action sequences work because of character focus. Nobody cares about a building collapsing because it doesn't have any emotional resonance with you as the audience. The only reason that a building collapsing means anything is if you think, oh, I hope it doesn't hit this character. Oh, is this character going to be able to jump to safety? Like, focusing on character beats in the middle of massive action sequences are why the action sequences work. Nobody, like, action sequences that are just action sequences are like mind-numbing and boring, and you get past them like really, really, really quickly, even though they like, you know, they might be impressive on screen. You're just, you know, you've forgotten about them 30 seconds later because they mean nothing. And so like I think he does a really good job here of being like, everyone is character based. It's all about where are the characters. And, you know, Zach, you said this earlier, he's really good about space, the geography, like where everybody is. You never feel like, wow, King Shark just went from the right side of the building to the left side of the building in 2 seconds.
In a
like,
cut or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a lot of times you see these movies and they've shot like 45 different angles. So like they can get lazy when they're editing together. And it's just like, you know, character A goes from room 5 to room 1 in like 0.1 seconds. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like how did that happen? You know, we've talked about this in other movies where we criticize them for like not understanding where anything is in space, and this movie is really good about being constantly reestablishing the geography and showing you where everybody is.
When it's good at making you certain of where the characters are at every moment, even when they're off screen, even when they're not being shown, you know where everyone is at each moment.
Yeah. And what I like about that is that it basically becomes a scene transition when the floor keeps collapsing on each of the floors for Bloodsport, and it leads to the next sequence with Peacemaker and Ratcatch, and ties that up, which I thought was cool.
And it's pretty great how
scene transition.
I thought it was going to smash him with the building. So it kind of
I definitely could have thought that was happening.
It's such a good callback to go back to even the idea of that. How are you going to get more dead center, smaller bullets, shoot your bullets, and that's exactly what Bloodsport does to Peacemaker. I do think one of the questions coming out of this movie is how does Peacemaker survive? He not only takes a shot to the neck, and
he gets shot to the neck. So I guess like if it wasn't the heart or the brain, then that means he can live.
Well, there's some fucking huge arteries in the neck right there, my friend.
Best medical team they could give because they really have purpose for him. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in the context of the movie, that's probably the one thing that kind of jumps out, where it's like they're setting up Peacemaker show, and I guess he just really wanted to live.
I mean, he's like the only one that head didn't get smashed, so he's the only one that is believable to be still alive.
Like in the context of the movie, in the reality of the movie, if you don't get shot in the brain or the heart, then I guess you can still live.
Yeah. I guess we don't really know what else is going on with him. Like, does he have enhancements or something? Potentially, like, we're not given that information, so potentially maybe he's.
Do you need him to be trusted for performance-enhancing drugs? Is that what you're asking? PEDs you're worried about?
So I'm just going to say that I'm going to make a small judgment that I'm pretty sure a wrestler is on something. You don't typically maintain that level of mass and that percentage body fat without it.
Do you think it's immoral for superheroes to be taking PEDs?
I actually don't think it's immoral for athletes to take it. I'm pro drugs, and I think it's stupid that we live in the Ronald Reagan ridiculous ban on performance enhancers. I think that, as we
It's
all
just
know,
for the fairness of the game.
PEDs makes sports fun, because I'd rather see crazy shit than normal shit, and I'd rather see two people hit 60 home runs than a bunch
Should
of
we all
non-PEDs.
be taking PEDs so we're all the best versions of ourselves and best and angriest versions of ourselves?
So the only problem is there are side effects. You do see a lot of bodybuilders die in their 50s of some kind of heart-related problem.
So for the sake of sport, you want all of you want to die from heart attacks by 50?
No, this is why I'm saying that they make sense to certain people doing certain actions, but I don't know if the three of us are doing anything that requires us to be performance enhanced on a daily basis.
Well, you've got one. You're going to improve those neck muscles now.
Yeah.
No, I got to get back to shrugging. I've been too long. I'll get back on it. I'll work on it. So everybody falls out of the building. They try to kill King Shark. That doesn't work. Starro comes up from the basement, releases a bunch of spores, takes over all the soldiers, and seemingly is going to go off and take over this town. And Amanda Waller is like, yeah, we don't give a fuck. This is an enemy country. Let it get destroyed. Just come back. You destroyed the building. They don't have any proof of us. Come back. And the team says, basically, F you. And it was like, we're going to go fight this dude, which is a pretty awesome moment. You get a really cool shot of them, as a team marching into war. She is threatening to destroy them. And she gets knocked out by her team, who we've sort of seen over time. Her team has started to lose faith in her, being like, my God, you are kind of a monster.
Yeah.
It was needed redemption for them, so they weren't constantly complicit to the evil that they were seeing going on. You can't have all those characters being part of the evil system.
I do like how there is no dialogue between the squad where they contemplate, oh, we should probably fight Starro. No, our mission is to leave. Like, this isn't our problem anymore. They all walk off, and then Idris Elba is like, yeah, we should probably step out. And they just don't say anything to each other. It's because I was totally expecting Ratcatcher to be like, come on, we got to do it. Like, she's like being like the moral compass of the squad to be like, we should fight. They all realize that this is what we need to do, and I think that's a nice moment for them to work to be as a team. So I always just like that aspect. And then they decide to fight Starro.
When you get the team after knocking out Waller, like helping them,
giving them intel. Yeah,
it's a really funny group of like supporting people I've seen in some TV shows. The guy with the beard,
Steve Agee, who played King Shark. Yeah.
Well, he's also in. Did he really play King Shark?
He's the on-set King Sarge, the body of King Shark.
Oh, the sort of the way that like Sean Gunn is always Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah.
He's also like, I don't know if it's other people. He was outside Dave from New Girl, the crazy homeless dude who was always like yelling at the occupants of the loft. It's just one of those like kind of funny actors you like seeing and stuff. And then they go into a fight. Ford finally kind of takes over as the leader for the first time in the film without the introduction of Flag, which is something that Waller told him she would make him at the beginning.
Yeah. He makes a big ass gun.
He makes an awesome gun. It's really cool. It's the
way it spins. Why it's just like this. It's like a grenade launcher or something.
I'm pretty sure it is a grenade launcher.
It's so cool.
Sends King Shark to eat the monster.
Yum yum.
Throws him through a building. Sends Harley up high. Tells Polka Dot Man that it's his mom.
Imagine it's his mom.
Which is
again, then we get
that that flashback. The combination that they make the jokes about him having mommy issues several times throughout the film that it's funny, and then they actually can do the moment where he sees all the other characters as his mom is like really funny, especially the one shot of the whole team as his mom. Where it's like King Shark his mom, and like
King Shark.
King Shark. I don't know. My voice is dying.
Welcome to our Manchester by the Sea episode part 2. There's no sharks. There's no sharks, Dad.
I don't know. I've my accent will only occasionally come out. I don't usually have one. For a while, people I was told I had a Philadelphia accent, whatever that means. But the Massachusetts in me slips out occasionally. Yeah, Polka Dot Man gets killed.
Which we've already talked about.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Ratcatcher is starting to do stuff. Bloodsport realizes she's in danger, runs over, and in a moment that is, set up by we talked about this a little before. There's a scene in the car when they're traveling together where they start talking about their fathers, and she starts talking about her dad, and like
her dad's Taika Waititi.
Yeah, no, it's a great casting.
Yeah,
talks about how he, just like he had his problems and he wasn't perfect, but also he really cared about her, and talks about why they have the rats and where they came from and what the rats did and how the rats get them cold. And also, they get the story of why Idris Elba is afraid of rats. The initial, his dad locked him in a crate with hungry rats, and you kind of get to see it's a moment that you already like this character, and then you start to understand his backstory. And I think it's a really effective, tying his tragic backstory to a specific phobia that you've already seen him exhibit in the course of the movie is really effective. Rather than just being a sob story, it's now you understand why he has this aversion to the rats in the first place. And the moment where she's I know my dad loved me, I wish I could give you that. There's such a beautiful moment and such a beautiful line. And then they do the thing back and forth where I'm going to make sure you get out of here alive. And she goes, I'm going to make sure you get out of here alive. And then in the end, it is, they basically, they both make sure the other gets out of there alive.
Other. Yeah.
You get the attack. Harley Quinn jumps through the eye in a ridiculous sequence.
I was not expecting that sequence.
Which is also great because to me it really mirrors her coming out of the vat. Her coming out of the vat in the original Suicide Squad when she's turned from Harley Quinzel to Harley Quinn. That to me looked like the mirror image. In the first one, she came out as this crazy person with an abusive person. The second one, she came out saving all these people who now care for her. You get the rats, which is just such an amazing sequence.
Lovely creatures. They're all beautiful. I want to snuggle with them all.
Zach has some weird
things. This is so different. Do you like sharks and water rubbery things? I like me some mammals and I like me some rats.
Yeah, because sharks are much cleaner and don't carry disease.
Yeah, that's rude. And you're putting a taboo just because the rats carry the plague. It's trying to get past them.
Lots of diseases, not just the plague, my friend.
Yeah, let's be honest.
I have a rat living in my backyard, by the way. We named him Mr. Ratburn. There's just a tree just hangs out in.
Interesting. Do you have any thoughts on this final battle sequence? Rats, everything?
I like how grounded it is. It could have been just destruction after destruction. It makes Starro look menacing because it's always just shot from a low angle shot where you can just see how giant he is, and it focuses on the squad, and each of them have their moment to take him down. The Ratcatcher and Harley are the ones that just make him bleed and shit from his eye, and I was like, holy shit! I wasn't expecting that sort of violence. It's not over the top, but the fact that they have to go to the dead center of his eye to just to kill him, I thought that was really cool.
Brain, I think,
I don't know what they do. It's just so weird, but it's a cool visual.
I'm a huge fan of the kind of trope of the person with that you least expect to come through, the person that you underestimate how strong they really are, which you do get a little bit with Harley Quinn being the one that go in the art, but really with Ratcatcher, which is always seen as one of the lesser parts of the team, but it comes out she is able to save the day, and it comes out as one of the most powerful because you forget that underneath this ground is millions of rats, as you see, of how much power she really can. It's kind of that if all ants can unite, how much power can they have kind of concept that she's able to bring together, and she's low key one of the strongest characters on that team, and it comes through and saves the day, and pure of heart. Great moment.
That's is that your whole thesis? Is that Ratcatcher's just pure of heart?
Yeah, she's the one that deserves to save the day. I will say my favorite line coming from Ratcatcher, I think, through the movie, is when someone says, "You have daddy issues," and she's like, "I have no issues with how much I love my daddy."
I love how quiet it is. I love how when Harley dives into the eye, we get this this just very weird cerebral shot of all of them. It's very quiet. The fight kind of ends, and you're right. We've talked about this earlier, but the really kind of sad moment where Starro is I just wanted to float around in the space. I didn't want to come down to this planet. I didn't want to be a part of these experiments. I wasn't trying to do any of this stuff. I wasn't trying to be evil. I just wanted to like, just kind of like live my life and have a good time.
Yeah, he was having a good time up in space. Just
He really
chilling
just
out, looking at the
dumbass
planet.
Americans were like, we're gonna bring this fucking giant floating. Also, like, hey, scientists, maybe don't put a fucking giant floating starfish in and not like quarantine it or like put some fucking masks on or shit. Like, you're just like walking around this like it's like a toy. It's like it's floating in space. There's something wrong.
Well, they weren't expecting like little starfish to come out of its armpits now.
No, I mean that's fair, but also like I don't know. There's something
that can
fucked up.
control corpses.
There's something fucked up with it if it's just floating around in space. Normal things don't survive floating around in space.
Yeah.
I will say I've been reading the Wikipedia earlier, and there's some hilarious gems about what James Gunn compared some of these characters to. He said that Harley Quinn was the Costello to Bloodsport's Abbott. Like that was the comedy like joke he wanted to make, like the straight man versus the funny man. You called John Cena. He wanted him to act like a douchey bro Captain America, which I think I think
it's kind of character.
That's perfect.
It's a good call. He talked about how King Shark is traditionally a hammerhead, but he was like, that looks stupid, and I sort of understand. And then he's like, he intentionally gave him like really small eyes and a smaller head because he wanted him to not look like cute. He didn't want the baby Groot or like baby Yoda thing going on.
Pretty cute.
Yeah.
He is still cute. He's still cute.
He also just looks like a shark. Like, like those eyes specifically.
There's a lot of like interesting stuff. He clearly like thinks about this. I mean, I kind of admire the fact that, James Gunn is a guy who is making a movie with Polka Dot Man and King Shark. Like, this is a ridiculous premise on the surface, but like he clearly has just this love and this care for this stuff that he really thinks through like all the details. In ways that are really cool. Yeah. And then we get they survive. They make a deal for
Starros has the saddest line. You skip that, the most tragic part of the movie. He just says, his line was like, I was very happy just floating in space.
I said it like 5 minutes ago, my friend.
Yeah.
We both missed it.
No, I said it like 5 minutes ago.
Lucas.
Literally like 5 minutes ago. You forget. Wow, just Zach clearly not.
I am not even half awake. I'm like a quarter awake at this point.
All right, we'll get close. We'll wrap it up. Post-credit scenes, Weasel and Peacemaker.
Well, no, before we get to that, we finally get the moment with Sebastian, which we haven't even talked about, the little rat catcher's friend.
Lovely best friend.
On the with Idris Elba, and he just like starts like just kind of petting him. I think that's really cool.
Him like overcoming his trauma.
Yeah.
And because we talked about the other film, Sebastian waves at him. He tries to offer him a leaf to show that he's not.
That was so adorable. He gives him a leaf. What am I going to do with a leaf?
It's a lot of really great moments. Bloodsport basically bargains for the freedom of all his team in return for the secrets. Gets his daughter off, and
I also like him on TV and like that whole scene.
I like that it doesn't end with like some kind of. I like the fact that. Even at the end, they're doing the right thing, but they're also doing it in their self-interest. Like they don't completely make these people good. Like the right thing morally would be like to release this information and expose the evil. But like at the same time, they're also a little bit more focused on their own.
Their lives are on the line if they release the footage. So they realize they won the battle, they can't win the war.
Right. So, but I like the fact that it's a little bit more morally complex than just like. We're going to release the information, and then Waller will have to like not touch. Like I like the fact that they do something like that, and then we get.
They are also not completely selfless characters. They can't go completely 180 to be the.
No, but that's what I like. I like the fact that we're not
100%.
trying to do a ridiculous like they become 100% selfless after being criminals. Like they still have their self-interest are still what they're looking out for.
Yeah,
and I want to see Suicide Squad 3 with that team. That sounds interesting. Like get them. I don't know how you figure out how you get them back, but I'm interested in seeing more from them. And then we know Peacemaker.
They'll be back. Well, no, this movie made no money. If you want to talk about that,
but I don't. That's not because of the audience.
No, it's an HBO. It's becoming a Warner Brothers HBO Max thing in general. It's hitting again and again and again.
Well, so far the truth of the data has been that movies that do really well on HBO Max also do really well in theaters, and movies that bomb on one bomb on the other. I actually think this is not an HBO Max thing. I would argue this is a Delta variant thing. And we're going to have to talk about COVID again. I think Suicide Squad got unlucky. If Suicide Squad comes out 3 weeks ago, I think it is more successful purely because I think people are just scared now. Even people who have like done the vaccine, I think people are just more scared now. We're seeing it kind of like people are just if you just look at like public opinion polling, people are less positive about the state of the world and just more pessimistic in general. I also think just it's an R-rated comic book movie. It cuts out they knew when they were making this, they were cutting out a portion of their audience. And I think it's also another reason that probably more likely that people might watch it at home is that if it's one person at home, they might just stay home and watch it. I think that I don't know. I'd be interested. I don't actually haven't seen the HBO Max data, so I don't know if I don't know if it bombed.
I think people are just getting more trained that they can watch stuff at home.
I mean, did you guys watch the Suicide Squad?
Home.
I watched it.
Sit on my treadmill.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched it at home as well. It was just easier, and I might have gone to the theater in the past, but I don't know, Delta variant seemed like a dangerous thing. Sort of concerned about that.
Mine's more of a time thing.
I think Jack, you may be right that over time, the correlation between HBO Max viewing and in theater viewing is probably going to shift in one direction. Because you're probably right that when Godzilla vs. Kong came out, people were not necessarily aware of that you could watch it online.
And they were so excited to get out of their house at that point. That was the first time they were able to see a movie, so they were going to go see anything. And now it's become less of an idea. But I think there is tracking going on not the movies that are making the most money, but making the most profit are movies that have not been released to streaming, like Quiet Place 2 for sure. But even old, because it was made for a low budget, has still had a pretty good return and a good profit. And because that's not released to streaming, even Stillwater has made $5 million for that movie, which is kind of high during a Delta time. Once again, not released to streaming. Does have Matt Damon and lead star, but is more of an art housey kind of thriller.
What is the highest grossing American film in this year specifically during this time?
It's
Black Widow.
Black Widow?
From opening.
But if you also have to think about it in context, right? So I'll go down the list. Black Widow was released at home, but you had to pay money for it at home. So it wasn't necessarily
that's also
free at home versus going to the theaters. Number 2 is Fast 9. So 174 million for Black Widow, 171 for Fast 9. Fast 9 is straight theaters. Quiet Place Part 2, 159, which is kind of crazy that $159 million domestically from Quiet Place. That was straight to theaters. Godzilla vs. Kong is the only movie in the top 5 that is that was free at home, 85 million. So that's a step down. And then you get 100 for Godzilla vs. Kong, 85 for Cruella, 65 for Jungle Cruise, 65 for Conjuring, that was also free at home, and then 63 for Space Jam, that was free at home. 55 for Boss Baby, that's insane. That was also free at home. And then Raya and the Last Dragon, 54, but that was kind of released early in the year.
That was also a weird release, yeah.
It was a bad time for a lot of those. I think Godzilla vs. Kong is the crazy one. That
was a crazy one, March, and how well that one did. People just want to go back and see the movies. Yeah. That film and what that is a cinema experience to see Kong and Godzilla fight, and I think a lot of people were kind of more motivated to watch that on the big screen. So
I think also just in March, I think people were oh, we're coming out of COVID. We're getting vaccines soon. There was I think that the general tenor of the world was more positive, and now we've kind of jumped somewhere ahead. Some were well, the rates we aren't getting vaccination rates up as high as we'd like, and now we've got the second variant. I think there's I think the general.
But the people who are not getting vaccinated, I don't think give a fuck about whether they're going to the theater and going to get it. They don't care. That's it.
But I think a lot of the people seeing. I mean, there's then the question is, but I think it's going to drive the general audience down, just in general.
The people who are vaccinated are still getting concerned about spray now.
We know that the majority of U.S. citizens are vaccinated or were masking, social distancing. There's a percentage that's not. That percentage won't care about Delta, but there's enough people that would care about Delta or would potentially be worried about it to drive down
about
spraying
it. Yeah,
we talked about I think all the characters. Does anyone else they want to talk about, or do we want to just do some rankings of the DC?
Oh yeah, DC. Trying to think. I think we've pretty much gone through everything.
Yes.
I was going to mention Taika. I did. It was because I found it interesting because I remember watching the first trailer and him being one of the names and just going Who is he going to play? I think a lot of people expected him to voice King Shark.
That was that
was definitely like a huge speculation. But I do like that it's small enough, and it's one that I wasn't even really thinking about until the opening credits showed his name. I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's right, Jake is in this movie. And it's a nice little scene. So
absolutely.
Let's do some great hair.
I'm curious as to far as to just wrap this up. I'm very curious as to see if Gunn would come back and do another Suicide Squad. I know he's now making Volume 3 with Marvel, and he's also got the Peacemaker show that's coming out. I would be curious to see. I would like to see, even if it's not just Gunn, I want to see a director like him make another Suicide Squad. It's not necessarily a similar vision, but just someone with the idea of, I'm going to get these crazy characters from the comics and I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, but it's going to work with what the story, what the plot, what the concept of the Suicide Squad is. Not a David Ayer situation. Exactly, yeah. Like, I just don't want a David Ayer-esque guy to make a Suicide Squad and just completely get it wrong. So
am I the only one who just like does not fundamentally believe that there's a great David Ayer cut of Suicide Squad? Like, am I the only one who just thinks that's complete?
And there's
bullshit?
also not a great.
I don't think there's a great. Well,
here's the thing.
That's
at least with Zack Snyder, I don't think that cut is good. But I at least see the argument that Zack Snyder would have a completely different cut than the studio, because like just the way he makes movies is very different than the studio process. Ayer seems like a studio director.
Yeah,
and
it would be a very studio movie, but it would not work with what because there's a lot that was taken out, and I'd be more curious to see what his original intention would be, but I would not expect it to be a good film.
Yeah, I don't think that. I'm very skeptical that there's a cut out there that they're gonna be like, this fundamentally changed. I don't think that exists. I think maybe they could edit it better, but I don't think that's like there's a completely different way to exists there.
That's the only thing I can see being better about it.
Yeah. I'm excited for Peacemaker. I'm interested to see what they do with that. I know that show's already shot. I think that's coming out.
Me too. I'll watch it.
Yeah, I'm interested to watch that.
I would be curious, like, because what do you do with that sort of character?
Is it going to be a Max
original? With Peace?
Yes.
I think it's going to be on HBO Max, and for Australia, I would assume Binge, since we get a lot of the HBO stuff. I would be curious to see what they do with Peacemaker as a character. I think Zack froze for the 7th time now. Am I right in that? Or did he just... Yeah. There he is. Because I'm worried that they would probably do like a Harley Quinn situation like they do with Birds of Prey. Like a character who works really well as a supporting character.
A great movie?
Or no. But would Peacemaker work as his own, as a standalone thing? Would he work as a actual main character?
Well, they're focused on his origins. They've cast his father.
Okay.
Robert Patrick is playing his father.
That's good. I like that casting.
Some of the people who that were like part of the team. Adrian Chase is played by Freddie Stroma. So we got like another like villain or anti-hero. Yeah, it's there are 8 episodes. It's coming in January 2022. James Gunn wrote all of them. He directed.
I believe he's directing some of them.
He directed 5 of them, and then he turned some of the other ones over to people I haven't heard of. But I'm sure he was handpicking them and show running it. So yeah, I'm excited to see like what they end up going on there. It sounds like an interesting time. I'm interested to see just be like, why was Peacemaker the character they tried to do? Probably because Weasel survived.
John Cena.
Yeah, I mean, probably just John Cena. But like, John Cena seems to be having fun with this character. I'm excited to see more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, his whole thing with the press screening and that, and all the interviews he's done, I'm just happy that he's like fully on board, like wearing the costume and stuff. Like it looks like he's having fun, and I feel like if that's his personality, if that's him liking the character, I feel like we're in good hands with Peacemaker, the TV show.
I think everyone just in this cast just seemed like they seem to enjoy. I know Robbie talked about like she liked the fact that Gunn let her do stuff that they hadn't done previously. They got rid of some. I have to go back to the wiki.
Some of the tattoos, I think.
She really hated some of the tattoos, and like he was the one who was like, "Yeah, we're gonna ditch some of them." There was like one.
They finally got her to wear red and black, like her colors, because she was just not wearing any of that in Suicide Squad or Birds of Prey. I just like that it's more comic accurate. I think the red and black, just aesthetic, is better with Harley Quinn.
Yeah, she's got the cool biker jacket with "Live Fast, Die Clown" on the back of it. They got rid of the rotten facial tattoo because she really hated it. Yeah, it feels like everyone really just enjoyed working on this. And I'm just really smart that they brought a new cast in, did a new thing, because it's a real blast. Let's drop out of the spoiler section. We'll do a really quick rundown of our DCU rankings. Jake, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I guess I'm the guest. I'll go first.
Well, you can go first or last. You can pick. We'll allow you to pick.
I'll go first. Yeah.
Just go 11
number
to
1. 11 to 1. 11 one's
Let's go 11. 11 up.
Okay. Number 11 is Justice League, the Josh Whedon version, the 2017 Frankenstein monster. Number 10 is Suicide Squad, David Ayer, 2016. I'll have to say which one by saying the year and the director, just so it doesn't confuse people.
Too many of them.
What a world we live in. Number 9, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Number 8, Man of Steel. Number 7, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Number 6, Wonder Woman 84. Number 5, Wonder Woman. Number 4, Birds of Prey, and the really long subtitle. Number 3, Aquaman. Number 2, Shazam. And number 1 is The Suicide Squad.
I'd like to just say, for the record, I like Jake more than Zach, and we're gonna see.
Well, I made some changes since last time we told this. You'll feel a little better.
All right, Zach, why don't you go?
Number 11 is Suicide Squad,
which is the correct take.
Number 10 is Batman v Superman. To be honest, I also watched this on the airplane, which is not the best way to watch Batman v Superman.
It's a boring movie, to be honest. It's rough.
Number 9, Man of Steel. Number 8, Snyder Cut. Number 7, Justice League. It's better than Snyder Cut.
You like that better than Snyder?
Zach is the one person in the world.
Snyder Cut commentary was the darkest moments of my life.
Hey, we got a ton of views though, so it's good for that.
Justice League used to be ahead of Aquaman, but I moved Aquaman up. Aquaman I have at number 5. Wonder Woman 84. Now we get to the movie. That's number 5. Sorry, Aquaman was 6. I was missing a number. Now those are all ones I don't like. Now we get to the 4 that I like. Number 4, The Suicide Squad. 3, Shazam. 2, Wonder Woman. Number 1, Birds of Prey, American classic.
That's such a bad take. All right. My number 11 is Suicide Squad from 2016. My number 10 is Man of Steel. So, to be clear, if you ranked Batman v Superman off the theatrical cut, it's 10, but it's higher up because I've watched the Ultimate Edition, which I do think improves the movie on the whole. It just makes it more coherent. 9 is Joss Whedon's Justice League. 8 is Birds of Prey. 7 is Zack Snyder's Justice League. 6,
that's fucking rude. You did the opposite of what I did. I moved up Aquaman. You fucking moved bad down. Don't give me this bullshit.
No, Birds of Prey has always been in that spot. I've never. I didn't like the movie the first time I watched it, and I don't like the movie now. 6 is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. 5 is Wonder Woman 1984, and I legitimately there's an argument I don't like any of the movies 5 and down.
That was me.
Yeah.
Like there might
the movies I really like are by 1, 2, and 3. Everything else I think is either okay or bad or good.
That was me. We both had each other's number 1s in the don't like spot.
I have 4 movies I like. Wonder Woman is at 4 because it's the most flawed of those 4. It is a atrociously bad third act. My number 3
also operates as a film, which is cool.
Yeah.
Which is compared to Suicide Squad and other.
Yeah, the other ones are not functional movies. They don't have the components of a film. Number 3 is Shazam, which is just a blast. Number 2 is The Suicide Squad. And number 1, with a bullet, it's Aquaman. It fucking rules so hard. I love Aquaman so much. I'm not even joking. I am the world's biggest Aquaman fan. I'm not even joking. I love Aquaman.
As the world's biggest Venom fan, I respect that.
I understand your Aquaman love as much as you understand my Birds of Prey love, so we'll just let it live there.
I mean, that's an interesting comparison. I would say you hate fun, and
wait, Birds of Prey is like objectively more fun.
It's also just it's not.
Aquaman takes itself so seriously.
Jake, please tell this fool what is more fun, Aquaman or Birds of Prey?
Despite Aquaman being the same running time as 2001: A Space Odyssey, it is way more fun than Birds of Prey.
I know you guys like to call people saying "bro" and jumping out of airplanes.
Dude, come on!
And octopus playing drums.
It has the best relationship in any DC film. I stand Tamara Morrison and Nicole Kidman. It's the best relationship in any DC film. They loved each other. It's gorgeous. They have a great dog. Life is good. Aquaman's fucking awesome.
Excuse me, Ratcatcher and her rat is the best relationship in any DC film.
Zach, I don't support bestiality, so I wouldn't consider that a relationship.
Okay, relationships don't have to be fucking. We have a relationship. It's a friendship.
Do we have a relationship anymore? We've done 2 hours on the Suicide.
Am I Switzerland now? Am I just
Jake is definitely here as the marriage
I'm watching my
counselor.
mom and dad fight on camera.
We're just business partners.
Jake is the marriage counselor for the moments when I rip you for like not liking King Shark ripping people in half.
I think you're a lot meaner about my opinions being different than yours than I am to you.
I would agree with that.
That's fair. You also get. I'm just gonna say this. I love you like a ton. You get stuck on really weird small points in films in ways that I just don't relate to.
It's okay.
No, it's a very Zach. Like when you said that, I was like, that's a very Zach thing to say. This is after I went through an episode. We were like, I don't like how they treated environmentalism.
Okay, I'm going to talk to you about that off camera, but that one I think I just articulated very poorly what I mean.
We'll do that off
camera. I have a comparison, but we'll talk about that off camera.
All right, folks. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jake, to coming on and doing a 2+ hour review of a movie with a shark and a rat. Life is good.
And a guy who shoots polka dots.
Yeah, pretty amazing. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening, doing your thing. Thank you to Jake for being a fucking trooper and coming on and doing this ridiculous shit. We will have you back in the coming months on one of the main feed episodes. We have a lot of people coming up that I think that you would be down to jump on for, and we'll talk that off mic. Enjoy our regularly scheduled episode coming up on Saturday, The Island of Dr. Moreau. We had both Mike Hanley and Nazario Montenegro come on to talk ridiculous dumpster fire of a film. We went through the entire production catastrophe and the crazy shit that's going on. It'll be a real blast, even if the movie is not. Folks, have a good night, and we'll see you on Saturday. Peace out.